Hi everybody, Geraldine Rose here. No, that's not Halloween and it's not low-hanging fruit. It's another card for the Color Inspiration Challenge, playing with photo paper, this time with ink and shiny sprays. I wanted to do a reverse blackout technique. That's why I was feeling the folder to find out what side I was going to put it on. When you put the ink down on the folder itself, you want to put it on the flat side and it will go into the background. I'm using the black soot oxide ink for this one. When I do the first impression, I thought, okay, it's not enough. You can see that I've inked it up again here. I'm giving it another spritz again, very carefully slotting that photo paper back into spot, running it carefully through again, and it goes flying. Whoopsie. Okay. Anyway, it turned out well. This time I gave the oxide ink a few moments to dry. Then I set it down into my splat box. I got out some of my fresh dye inks in the inspiration colors, which were orange and green. This was a cherry blossom style of embossing folder, the Alta New Blossoming Branches it was. It's got a bird in there, but I will end up hiding that, so I'm not too worried about that. I colored the blossoms in orange. I'm going to come in with shades of green for the leaves. You can see I'm just touching it down here. So I've got a combination of both the oxide ink and a fresh dye inks on the background. Shaking up my distress spritz sprays. Say that 10 times quickly. I used the lighter tones because the third color that was in this inspiration challenge was kind of a tanny pink. And got those down. I've put spraying a little bit of water on them to get them to move around a little bit. There, I'm holding the nozzle part way so that I'm getting more of the little splitchy splotchities. The other parts you can see it's running into the crevices that the embossing folder had. Then I brought out a wee bit of Distress Oxide spray. This was Rusty Hinge, and I'm tapping it on to get a few little background splatters in there, change up the interest. Now, while playing around, I've discovered that if you put a dye ink or a pigment ink in with a mica-style shiny ink, you're going to get like a gasoline dispersion effect. So that's what I'm doing. I've got the Alta New Jet Black ink out here. I'm dropping it in and watching it do those circles through the background to get that really neat effect. I've let it dry. Photo paper, of course, is 4x6. That's not your A2 typical panel size, so I'm trimming down the long ends on it to get the proper size. Now here, I'm cutting out the sweet apricots. I am going to show you where I got the panels from. I am brayering them onto the background, starting out with the lighter ones first. I don't want the stronger hues of the medium and the dark inks to overpower the gel print. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pull them off first generation onto a scrap. Then I'm going to use the second generation to get that lighter toned print for the one that we're using for the card. Apologies if my voice changes. I was out in the garden trying to figure out why I have no water pressure for watering my plants. Back to this. This is still the flashback. These were some of the spare panels that I got. They were the first generation prints that I'd pulled from my gel plate and just set aside for use in the future. Worked out perfectly for this for the colors. For the leaves, I just used a solid colored cardstock. This one I decided I would put a couple of bicolors on a few of the leaves. Cut them out kind of in haphazard, but still following the patterns that the die set had put into place. You can see the branches over the top. So you set the leaves down, you have the branch, the brown part that goes over top of it. I am coming in with a little bit of jet black. This is a fresh dye ink. This is not a pigment ink. And I'm deepening along areas where there might be shadows on those leaves, because this is kind of like a grungy, greedy one where you've got the luster and the shine on the panel, the photo paper, but at the same time you see that black coming up from underneath. And I thought it would look really well with that, with tones of it through the leaves. The branch, that's a milk chocolate that we're putting on there, and just in spots. The peaches, I'm calling them peaches. Hey, they could be peaches, they could be oranges, they could be apricots, they could be orange plums. Whatever you want. These ones, it's like, yeah, it's going to be whatever the choice is for the person that's getting this card. I'm deepening around the edges so that it's rounding them and it's giving them some dimension. You can see I've already glued the layers together. There is a layering guide on the back of this particular die set as well too. They're one of the keyhole methods. So they do have the little numbers. Squish, squish. Oop, I just about missed it there. And putting our little stems on the top of the apricots, oranges, peaches, whatever you want to call them. Orange apples. I would bet that there are some of those out there too. Anyway, the one peach, orange, apple, apricot. I put some foam on the back of it. I'm pulling the backing off, a little bit of glue. I wanted that one up a little bit higher than the one that we've already set down into place so that it gives a little bit of dimension in addition to the dimension that we've got going on in the back of the card from the embossing folder. It worked out well. I did have to put little pieces of foam underneath the little twigs at the top though, where they attached. This was the Timeless Sentiments 3. This is my first time using this die set. I chose the Shine Bright. I thought it would be very apt for the fact that we have got a very shimmery background going on with this one. And the type of person that it's going to, I think it works very well for her too. Lining up my T-square ruler to make certain everything's straight. I got out my old corner rounder and had a dickens of a time trying to squish punch those down. Got it done though. Yes, and then a little bit of trouble fitting them in. I'm going to jump to the inside of the card. One of my favorites, close to my heart, A Million Reasons. I am doing, one of my effects with this in that we'll start out with a base layer of green. We'll bring in other greens along the edges to layer up a dimensional effect on your words. I'm coming in with another layer where I will bring the brush in. And I thought, well, that rounded bottom of the sentiment actually does kind of mimic the fact that we've got the rounding through the peaches, orange, apples, apricots, whatever they tend to be. And that was me doing my, Jer effect that she always has to put the halo in with the yellow ink. This is where I'm using the brush to get that sweep of roundness of ink across the bottom so that it almost causes a shadow on your words. And it gives it much more interest than just doing it in a straight color, right? The sub-sentiment was from the Crafty Friends stamp. I'm doing a couple of the same effects with it. Obviously, because it's a smaller stamp, you can't do it quite as much. I just did along the bottom layer with a slightly deeper green on that one, making certain that I'm set into the corner. It had shifted somewhat. That's a Simon Says stamp grippy mat, and I have washed it. It is not clinging as well as it used to, so I will probably take it to the sink, rinse it once, dry it off. Don't put them in soap and let them soak. It's the same as a stamp. Just clean them off as best you can to help renew some of that stickiness so that it actually clings to the paper as you're setting it in. So I think our sub-sentiment is good. There were a couple of little rounded circles, solid ones, from that Crafty Friends stamp that I thought, you know what, those look like apricots, peaches, oranges, orange apples. And I did a first, a second, and a third generation stamping with those. And jump into the back, a custom stamp on the back. And I used my twisted one because I think the friend that this is going to, she realizes that I'm a little bit quirky. I didn't think she'd mind that. Anyway, using the scissors to pull the backing off the ultra sticky tape on the back here. Trying to set it in place, and of course I'm going to lean over here. You're going to see my poor hair that's graying out. It got into camera, squashing it down. Yes, and it's already got so much shine. I didn't want to put too many embellishments on it, so I used a few of the Pink Fresh, the ombre drops in the Glitter and Shine. I used an alcohol marker to color them a little bit more orange and setting them into place there so that it highlights that Shine Bright sentiment. And I think that's the finished card. There we are. Yay. All right. Now, I know there's a lot going on in the world, but everybody just look for that little bit of brightness in each other. Be that change we want to see in the world. It's the only way we're going to make it better. I want to thank you all for the likes and the comments and the subs lately. You've been all great. And for those of you that haven't, please, that'd be great if you could. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.